Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today at the TechChill. My name is Kristina, and today we're going to talk with you about the pre-launch, basically your new game pre-launch strategies. And before we go into the topics about how to actually launch your game and how to get ready to launch your game globally, and not actually only game, but some of the tactics and mechanics will be applied to the apps as well. I probably need to share a bit of insights about myself, a bit of story about myself, so you know why I actually talking about this topic today. So as you can see from my portfolio here, from this screenshot, I'm originally from Riga, from Latvia, and it's actually a very sensitive moment for me today because it's after speaking at more than 20 events and doing a lot of keynotes, it's the first time I'm talking out of Riga and for the Baltics event, which is extremely exciting because I truly believe we have a very strong startups and VCs community here. And I would love, obviously, to meet all of you in person, offline, but maybe next year. Meanwhile, about my background. So I've been in digital for about 9 years. So I've been living in Dublin for 12 years, and there I was working with Google and Facebook. So my last 3 years, I was focusing actually on supporting new businesses, new gaming businesses to launch their games like in EMEA, like gaming businesses from EMEA to launch their games globally. So today I will share with you some of my tactics, best practices. A lot of the information I'm gonna be covering will be part of the actually official Facebook playbook. So I would definitely recommend you to reading through this as well and searching for it. But now, today, I'm not talking anymore as a Facebooker, as right now I'm in different role, in different position, but I think it's enough about myself. Let's maybe move to actually the topics and let's talk about the game launches. So, since 2018, so 2008 actually, there was 2 million apps launched there. And when you think about such a huge market, and you probably think, okay, how can I actually, as a game developer, how can I break through? And one of the one of the options to do that, and one of the techniques to do it, it's actually obviously among with a great product you have and a great team, it's user acquisition. And I guess so many of you heard about it, and that's probably one of the strong and important pillars to succeed in the digital environment and attract and bring new gamers, new players, and keep them engaged is actually user acquisition. But the question is like when you need to start and how you need to start. And with hundreds of companies I work with directly myself, my teams, like we found that this process between like developing the game and kind of having the MVP and prototype and until the global launch, it's quite a challenging period of time because usually new businesses, founders, they don't really know where to start from because maybe they came from other studios which already had some marketing in place. And probably like launching marketing from the start, from the scratch, and launching the product from the scratch is not exactly the same as keeping the growth of the existing business. So where I'm having 26 minutes with you, I will try to be on time, and I will walk you through different stages of the pre-launch, and we'll share with you a bit of insights about other important pillars which are related to the user acquisition. So the key elements, and when we think about user acquisition, obviously like it's always based on measurement and data, but I will not go to this topic today because I really hope the marketing science, this is definitely the area which you're already covering in your business. But the three elements which I will be covering today are strategy and tactics for user acquisition, team, and creatives. These are the three elements which are usually getting the most questions about in terms of, okay, how do we build it? How do we structure it? And let's have a look on them in details. So Talking about the strategy and tactics, obviously it's a user acquisition. There will be a lot of focus on the social media marketing, like social media platforms marketing. So it's like a Facebook primarily today and this presentation from my side, but some of the tactics might be applicable to other platforms as well. So I think once you learn and understand the logic of utilizing the machine learning, which Facebook, Google, and other platforms have, you will be able to adjust a little bit your knowledge. So, in order for us to actually work on the strategy for user acquisition and tactics, we need to understand the whole picture, right? So, we need to see how it's usually like where we start and where we go to. So, what are the stages and what to expect at each stage? So, if we'll talk about the game life cycle, usually there are like four main stages here. So, it's a soft launch, it's a global launch, sustain and optimize stage, and bend the curve. So you will hear a lot of those terms from my ex-colleagues from the Facebook team. So what does it each stage means and what you actually have to expect? Before going to that, just want to mention that what are those graphics? What do they cover? So basically the yellow one, as you can see, it's a marketing spend. The pink one, it's actually revenue. So basically what are you getting back from your marketing activities? So at the soft launch, this is the time when you test you test your work, you test your retention, monetization, getting ready, preparing for the global launch. And if everything is settled down and like you do have your bank of creatives, you already started to run some pre-registration activities, or let's say you partner with some IP or influencers, this is exactly the time to do. Because when you move to the global launch, you usually are recommended to go for global launch aggressively if you're like all of the monetization metrics are there and you're happy, you understand when you will get return on your ad spend, you have a solid LTV model. So then you go aggressively with your marketing spend during the global launch, and which usually may take 1 month and a half, sometimes more, sometimes less. And why it happening? Because during this time, you're more likely to get the best users for the best price. So everyone is trying to utilize this period, like we call it honeymoon period, and then they start decreasing their user acquisition spend. After that, you obviously will need to sustain your performance. You'll probably do a lot of re-engagement, remarketing with your existing users, focusing on bringing your not only players, but people who would most likely purchase within your game. And then we say about the bend the curve, it's like a longer time, it might be years the games were launched. However, when we talk about the revenue, it's a bit different journey, right? So as you can see here, the revenue is not really following the user acquisition, because at the beginning, and especially like you can see this, like the biggest discrepancy starts between soft launch and global launch. So why there is such a discrepancy? Because when the CPIs and CPAs are best and the users are more likely to engage with your game, this is the time for you to kind of work on getting as much volume as possible. And then after that, you go to basically optimizing the existing audience, re-engaging it, and actually getting your revenue back. So, but today, we're going to talk only about soft launch. And the reason for that is that for you, in order to be able to, first of all, feel safe to go aggressively during the global launch and make sure that the global launch will go properly, you need to do your kind of, build your base and do your homework before going to this global launch stage. And this is usually when we have a lot of questions in terms of, okay, what are those micro moments and what are those steps I need to do and make sure in order to succeed in the future, not to actually lose the potential to go aggressively with the global launch. So the pre-launch timeline consists few stages. So obviously there is a stage for ideation and concept. This is the time when you're getting your idea and you're coming up together and you're working on the new product. You believe that this is the definitely the next unicorn. So during this time, you kind of define the theme, you're exploring the art style. So you actually can already start utilizing the user acquisition during this time in order to test the audience. The next stage is actually prototyping. So you kind of, the concept is clear for you. It's a time for you to develop. So this is actually when your developers and coming together with designers, with the engineers in order to kind of develop the product. And it's really depends how long it's going to take. It really depends on the genre itself, on the product itself, on the game, on the market, and your ambitions. So, but this is the time for you kind of to define, okay, who you're planning to do this game for, and okay, what are the actual gameplay. Then once the prototype is ready, this is one of the first stages of what we call soft launch. So the soft launch is basically starts with the tech launch. Ideally, during this time, you need to basically test like the technical stability of the game. If there is any bugs or no, if the game performs in general, if the app works for different users. If it does, you usually move to retention stage. So basically, retention launch, just testing, okay, how many people are actually coming on day 2 and day 3, 7, 14, 28, etc. So trying to understand, it's actually, is there a stickiness there, like if the people like your game, if they're ready to come back, if you can stand out among your competitors. If retention is there, you're moving to trying and testing your monetization, right? So you need to make sure that the people are not just coming in and playing subscription apps. With hyper casual games, it will be a bit different story. It will be a bit different stages. I will not go into much details today, but let's say the monetization, the core monetization happening through the some in-app purchases or subscriptions. So during the monetization launch, this is where you actually fine-tuning your in-game economy and you're basically building your LTV model. And after that, a lot of people actually forget and they think, okay, monetization launch and I go global. But not really, because in order for you to go global, there is a lot of work to be done on user acquisition side, because it's worth of going global, not only when the app is ready, but actually when the acquisition is really understand users to buy, how to buy them, and like what's the LTV of those users. So let's have a look at each stage separately, and key, as I mentioned already, like 3 usually stages of the soft launch, what everyone is focusing on is like a tech launch, retention, and monetization, but we're going to cover a little bit of others as well. Even before you start your tech launch, for instance, there are key elements you need to key steps you need to go through. And this is like, I hope you will use it as as you can see, I created this as a task list for you. So you can actually tick the boxes with once each step is accomplished by you. So you can see here, there are more optimizational moments. Okay, so what do you do? Believe me, if it wouldn't be important, I wouldn't be mentioned now for you, because we don't have actually so much time to go through all of the details. But the elements which are mentioned here, they're very important for your future success. So please print it out, use it as your use it for your teams, and make sure that you go through all of them before you even start running any activities with Facebook. In terms of stage, there is a concept prototype, and at this stage usually you can do testing of your users, you do surveys, and you can do a playing yourself. Your friends would play and give you feedback. During this time, some products we can use and would help you is a test flight, so you can give access to people to the test flight so they can test the game. Same as with the Google Play console. I would already suggest you to start running some store optimization. So basically for that, you can use two products, which is like a third-party products. It's called Maven and the Split Metrics. They will give you an opportunity to test different screenshots for the store front, basically, not only screenshot, but actually icon as well. Because obviously, like your store page should have a strong conversion power as well. So people, when they land to basically your page on the iTunes store or like Apple Store or Google Play, like they would be interested to go basically click install and download the game. So during this time as well, there are a few more things which you do, which is like a stability test. You check the battery consumption and basically if the graphics are performing. And but that's about what you do. In terms of don't do, like obviously, please don't judge the game retention, for instance, or creatives, because it's very early stage. You need to make sure that the game like is running from technical perspective. So as you can see here, like the game readiness for this stage is like from 10 to 60%, right? Somewhere in the middle. And like the technical KPIs would be like load times, memory, etc. Once that's done, you're moving to the tech launch. That's about 60 to 70% percentage readiness for your game. This is when you kind of need to get enough users to make the product function. This is where you can easily go to the tier 3 markets. You don't need to go to kind of a tier 2, 1 expensive markets like running Malaysia, Indonesia. Like it could give you enough, like a good enough picture to understand if the game is functioning. And again, we don't judge yet the retention and monetization and creatives. Next stage. Before we go to that next stage, we need to make sure that we got at least 1,000 of installs, and we make sure there is like no crashes, or if they are there, we're fixing them, and the bugs are kind of fixed. Once it's there, we're moving to retention stage. So this is time when you're actually judging your game as a product, if actually people like this. So start measuring your early retention. So for tier 2, tier 3 countries. And with this needs to be careful. You need to make sure that you're actually getting the statistical significance on those metrics. So usually it could be between 70 or 100 events per country per day. So when we say events, most likely it's installs at this stage. During this time, you can understand, okay, what can be improved within the game for the retention, and it can take longer. You might be expecting that you will do your retention launch in 2 weeks, but if the game is not ready yet, like you can keep your activities running if the spend is not so high, and you can keep improving your game and run the activities again. But what I saw, for example, during the retention launch is that, let's say, if not enough data was collected and let's say not enough events were collected, like the judgment was made, but it wasn't right. So after the, let's say, weeks or months after this stage, they had to go to the retention kind of testing again and upgrade it kind of the product again. If you are happy with the retention and like if you bought at least 5,000 installs and like you see your IPM, CTRs, like CPAs are there, like the early retention is there, you're moving to monetization stage. With monetization stage, to be sure that the people will stay and monetize afterwards, I would suggest maybe aligning on kind of, okay, what is the retention in general should be there. So here we can see some benchmarks, and this is like the slides. You can find your genre and see the numbers. So this is the day 1. You have the day 7 here. I hope so. You already your genre and your benchmarks, or you can check it up later. This is the day 28. So for casual, classic, and mid-core. So let's say we're good to go with this one. So we're moving to monetization stage. So this is tricky part. From one side, you kind of want to understand that, okay, if your product is monetizing enough, but in the same time, you already need to take your user acquisition quite seriously. Before, everything which you spend before, even still in this stage, please approach as investment. So I mean, when you put the money and budget for your user acquisition, please consider this as an investment in your game rather than user acquisition. Because without running this user acquisition activity, you will never prove that the product is viable, or you will never find the issue why product is not viable. So monetization testing and in general, soft launch can be quite pricey for somebody who is doing user acquisition for the first time. For some genres, like 100K euros could be enough. But for another genres, let's say more like a hardcore games, in order to get enough events and get users and kind of measure everything, they need around like 250, 300K like euros for this stage, that all those stages together, kind of for all of the kind of a pre-launch, like all of the pre-launch period. So talking about the monetization, it's a time we can go to one country, so see, okay, how your audience is monetizing. Time to build LTV model, so predicting your LTV. Understand, okay, what's the business plan for your game and what does it mean? Like, based on the numbers you're going to get through this during this stage, you will be able to decide, okay, are you going aggressively because you know when you will get your return on ad spend, or you're going to be unlocking market by market, because maybe your return on ad spend will come back only like in 3 years. Go too aggressively, so you kind of cover, start unlocking certain audiences or the certain regions or the countries. So time to fine-tune the game economy and keep optimizing the store itself, because this time you're kind of buying the users which are purchases, so it may will be able to kind of react maybe a bit differently rather than the users you bought before, because before you were buying most likely installs, and now you're buying people who are going to be purchasing. So sometimes, and not actually sometimes, quite often, they react to different kind of a different emotional hooks. And we're going to talk about it a bit later as well. In terms of other activities, which is time for you to consider. So one of them would be building the relationships with Facebook teams, or let's say with other company what is working within your market as an authorized partner for Facebook. So for instance, if you're here in Baltic, like, hey, HTTP Pool, this is the company which is going to be taking care of you within the Baltics and Balkans and many other countries. This is the time actually for you to reach out to HTTP Pool team. Hey guys, we passed our retention launches. This is the metrics. We're kind of ready to start planning for the global launch. Reddit line play. Let's start the strategy itself. And the team here is well equipped, working very closely with the Facebook central team. So they will be able to kind of fully support you, not only with the strategy, but actually working with the creatives, with the measurement, with policy. So monetization usually is done when you have 10,000 of installs, and like when you're happy again with your like key KPIs. However, again, it depends on the genre, because let's say if it's a mid-core genre, you will be able to buy, events much faster than if you would buy for hardcore games. So this is something you would definitely will need to talk to, partners in order to kind of right strategy there. After that, this is kind of what comes when it's like for you to work on game identity. So everything which you plan around not just user acquisition, PR campaigns, working with influencers, or working with IP, this is the time for you to kind of build the strategy and put it in place, and obviously update your teams, like your partners on that, so they can support and plan you. And this is the good time as well to run some pre-registration campaigns. So let's say if there is no specific tool, for the pre-registration, you can do like a web page for your game and run the activity to that web page, or maybe to your Facebook page of your game or Instagram profile. Quite important as well to understand how you're actually acquiring users on Facebook. I'm not gonna go into too much details here, but like in few words describing how the system works. Like, as you know, it's like a machine learning mechanism, right? And understands and follows users in terms of their actual behavior within the Facebook family of apps. So you're, as business, able to focus on a few different aspects and actions of the users, which are installs, events, and basically value, which those users are bringing in. So in order for you to kind of build a strong base and make sure that in the long term, your game user base developing in a healthy way, you need to build this full funnel. So as you see this like a funnel build, so basically you have your installs, which are then converting to the events, and then from events, they're converting to value. The same way, ideally, you need to be building a strategy, making sure that your budget is distributed among all of those optimizations rather than focusing only on one. Because you might you might see great results focusing on app event optimization in the short term, but if you will not be kind of bringing in installs, like the system will have a hard time, finding the new purchases or new actions again and again. So it's more healthier would be for you to kind of bringing the volume, letting system kind of keep educating and kind of understanding, okay, what are the events, those people who come from install, but what are the events they're doing, and okay, what is the value they're bringing in. And the reason why I kind of mentioned this full funnel, I just want to show you what are the different optimizations you can use at each stage. So when it's ideation and concept, this is the time you use just the link clicks campaigns. You don't need even like an install campaigns, because you just want to prove the concept. You're going to see, let's say, CTR metrics, so how people are actually clicking and reacting to your product. With the tech launch, this is the time to go for mobile app installs. For the retention launch, you start mixing up. Here you can be focusing not just broadly installs, but actually adding some interest targeting, maybe in few weeks, lookalikes as well. So basically bringing people who are more likely to, do the same actions with people who are already your core audience are doing. For monetization, you go much more heavier with event optimization. And this is the time for you to collect enough events in order for systems to bring you actually value. So when I say enough events, what do I mean by that? It means that within the 2 weeks of activities, you need to make sure that you are getting enough of the events coming from the same country and distributed among different kind of price points within your game. So let's say if you have in-app purchase for $1, $5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 100, 150, make sure that like all of the events which are happening, they're equally distributed among all of those. So then system will have a more potential kind of bring, higher value users when it understands, okay, what are the differences between those users. And when we're talking about building your identity, that could be in addition to what you're already running with your monetization and retention launch. You're just adding some campaigns for the early kind of a pre-registration or early access. There is no, golden rule here. However, I still share some tips here. So the second topic is the team. So here is one of the suggestions, and obviously it depends on your business, but this is one of the options how you can do it. First, you bring in kind of a special forces. This is the team who gonna buy, so media buyers and the strategists. So those people who will understand, okay, how you can interact with different users, with different players coming from different platforms, not just one platform. Second is actually BI, so business intelligence team, the analysts. They should work on closely together, because as I said at the early presentation, like at very beginning, there is the whole user acquisition. It's purely focused on measurement and purely focused on data. So if you're not able to collect, read the data and understand, there is no point of even buying users. You just never know like what's happening with them after you brought them. The third thing is actually creatives team. This is the team that actually runs the creatives production on daily basis, which creates for you this like a creative bank, which you're going to use for your global launch. But creatives team needs to be kind of supported by one more team, which is like a strategist. Creative strategist, this is the role which is usually kind of taking care of understanding, okay, what's happening in the industry, what are our competitors are doing, or what are they not doing, and like we should do, because this is our unique kind of a feature we have in the product. So basically creative strategist team, they will feed up the creative team with ideas and the plan. This all should be aligned with basically how this is going to be used for media buying, and aligned together with BI in order to how did it work at the end. Usually very often, another very quite often question, what I get quite oftenly is what are the qualities of user acquisition leads I should look for? So what those people should be good at, and how would I understand that they are good at user acquisition in general? A few things what I suggest you to focus on. First, do they have a strong ability to understand the algorithms of each platform? So basically understand how each platform works. Second, do they understand your game specifics? So do they understand, okay, how to run the activity for in-app purchase games, or like for hyper casual games, subscription apps, fintech, etc. So, and when you have your team in place, or like last but not least, it's creatives. So this is something quite important, and you probably heard about it a lot. And the reason for that, because this is the very first thing which your potential players and users are seeing basically. So it's going to attract them or not, and it's really up to you. So this is the battle, which usually quite hard to win, and you need to do a lot of testing and a lot of iteration in order to find something, the formula which will going to work for you. But it's worth it, because like you would see such a big difference between how between the performance of user acquisition based on good or bad creatives in terms of what type of users they're bringing. So this is definitely quite important and big topic. With the creatives, when you're developing them today, like there is just a small part which I would like to cover. It's actually which exactly emotional hook you use within your creatives. I'm not sure if you heard about it, but this is something quite important to do, because like obviously you can go and look around, see what your competitors are doing. But another option kind of to brainstorm an idea is to understand first which kind of emotions are bringing new users to your game, which emotions kind of are hooking them in order for them to stay, play, and then do some actions or pay and purchase the, let's say, equipment or anything else. So there are different emotional hooks which you can consider, and let's have a look on 6 of them, and I'm pretty sure that you will find among them one which reflects, like would be related to your business and to your product. So the first one is the excitement. Is basically, this is the feeling which somebody sees when kind of watch your creative. And by the way, like you need to put the core and kind of a key elements and key story of your creative within the first 1.62 seconds, because if you don't do that, the person will just scroll this creative and like will not see what's happening after those 2 seconds. So for the excitement, you can show some actions, you can show some surprises, it could be some special effects, or it could be discovery. The next one is social connections. Basically, the people play the games because they want to connect socially with other people, meet other people, kind of feel themselves to be part of the community, and would be about making new friends, playing with other friends, or competing to somebody else. Third one is the expertise. So this is like when you want to level up your skills through, different levels. So you think strategically, you think, okay, you need to make decisions, like what do you do today in order to progress tomorrow? Fourth, it's actually success. So you're not just building the strategy, but you're actually able to succeed. So you're able to lead maybe or complete missions. You can show they kind of are getting the special prizes. You can go for some and get some collectibles. The next one would be about escaping. So these are the kind of emotional hooks which works for people who actually want to escape from the reality and, lose their time, lose themselves while playing your game. So it's all about fantasy, other worlds, like a new story, the story which they cannot live through like in real life, but, they can experience in your product. And the last one is actually creation. So some people play games just because they like, designing avatars, they like customization, they don't want to compete with anyone. They just like this process of creating something new and experimenting. So today, if let's say you need to build your new creative strategy, try to start with at least 2 or 3 of those emotional hooks. Think what exactly you can show within your creatives in order for a person to feel this way when they see your creatives. So obviously about the creatives, we can talk a lot. And today we covered kind of 3 core elements, which are what are the tactics and what you do during each stage of the pre-launch and soft launch, how you're getting ready for that. Second, how you can structure your teams and what should you be looking for, like in you people joining your marketing team, like what qualities you should be looking for in user acquisition leads. And if you need to start today, where you start your kind of a creative strategy. That's it from my side for today, and thank you so much for your time. I know it wasn't the best connection, so I hope you bear it with me and stayed with me. If you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook. And by the way, like I mentioned before about HTTP Pool, and obviously all of you know them. We are running this session in partnership with HTTP Pool, and right now HTTP Pool is hiring for their teams in Baltics. So if let's say you are not an entrepreneur or startup yet, and you want to start somewhere and searching for new roles, new jobs in the digital, this is actually the place where you can go for. So if you scan the QR code, you basically can see some of the roles available there. Thank you so much for your time, and talk to you next time. Bye.